This is going to be a rather long video that I'll have to create in parts. I don't want to create a video that will put you to sleep. I want to keep it real and interesting for you. The year 2012 was already a tumultuous one for Victoria's Gippsland region. On June 19 in 2012, a significant 5.2 magnitude earthquake occurred. It was centred near Moe, Victoria, Australia. It had rattled homes and nerves across the state, causing widespread alarm and minor damage. I was in Leongatha that night and we felt it. In the reported 60 aftershocks, and as residents grappled with the Earth's instability, a new, more mysterious tremor swept through the quiet communities of Leongatha and Moe. There were whispers of reports of an unidentified flying object. For those who witnessed it, the sighting was no mere trick of the light or misidentified aircraft. It was in the few weeks following the seismic activity, the UFO phenomenon became a talking point, adding a layer of otherworldly intrigue to an already disorientating period. The Gippsland region, known for its rolling hills, dairy farms and coal mines, is not typically a hotbed for such encounters, although I have noted that there are a few mentioned in local records. Yet in 2012, as the ground settled, a few reports began to surface, primarily from residents in and around Moe and Leongatha, describing strange, silent lights moving through the night sky. Witness accounts varied in specific details but coalesced around a few key characteristics. Unlike planes or satellites, the objects were described as performing erratic manoeuvres, sudden stops, rapid acceleration, sharp turns, or hovering perfectly still before darting away. Despite their apparent size or brightness, witnesses consistently noted the complete absence of sound, a stark contrast to any known aircraft. Descriptions included steady, brilliant lights, sometimes changing colour, or clusters of lights that arranged in an unfamiliar pattern, utterly unlike conventional navigation lights. One Moe resident, who preferred to remain anonymous, reportedly described seeing a large, silent craft with multiple lights, almost like a triangle, just sitting there above the tree line for a few minutes before shooting off like nothing you've ever seen. Further south in Leongatha, another local spoke of a bright spherical light that seemed to appear and then disappear instantly. The timing of these sightings, so soon after the unnerving Moe earthquake, fueled intense speculation. Was it merely a coincidence with heightened anxiety leading to the misinterpretation of everyday phenomena? UFO enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists quickly drew parallels to other geological hotspots around the globe, where similar phenomena have been reported in conjunction with earthquake activity. Some suggested that the tremors might have opened up an interdimensional portal or somehow interfered with cloaking devices revealing crafts that are usually hidden. Others suggested that advanced intelligence, whether terrestrial or extraterrestrial, might be monitoring our planet's geological stability. As with most UFO reports, official explanations were scarce. Local authorities and aviation bodies typically offered no comment or attributed such sightings to conventional sources like planes, meteors, or even drones, which were less commonplace in 2012. However, for many who witnessed the strange lights over Gippsland, these explanations rang hollow against the vivid personal experience of seeing something anomalous. The Moe and Leongatha UFO sightings of 2012 remain an intriguing footnote in the region's history. And for those who saw something truly unidentifiable in the wake of the tremors, the memory of those silent, strange lights continues to flicker, a testament to the enduring enigma of the unknown. Why would I make such a video? Well, I was one of those people who saw something highly unusual after the 2012 earthquake. As I've said before, I'm no stranger to the psychic or paranormal worlds, so why should this event be any different? And as you will find out in future videos, there were other encounters. But this encounter was so fantastic, I just thought it's about time to share it. It was a few weeks after the earthquake, and my then husband and myself were outside standing under the carport, and I was feeling euphoric about life, marriage, and the upcoming gig, which was going to be a huge event. Basically, everything in my life was humming along beautifully, and I was enjoying the love that I was receiving from my husband in that playful moment of affection. Mid-kiss, my husband suddenly stood back and exclaimed, "What is that?" He pointed out to the south and said, "There's a bright light in the sky." I spun around looking, but I couldn't see anything but stars. He pointed to where he saw it but claimed it had gone. Me, in my curiosity, I walked down to the bottom of the driveway where I could get a good unobstructed view of the night sky, but I simply couldn't see anything. While I did this, my husband had gone back under the carport to have a cigarette. I stood there for a good few minutes, just looking in the direction that he'd pointed to, and I even looked up, but I couldn't see anything, just stars. I turned around and I took about 4 steps, and I happened to look up at the balcony above the carport, but my eyes were diverted to a higher point above the house. I suddenly stopped dead in my tracks, and I stood there for what felt like a full minute or two, just looking at this shape. It seemed to be blotting out the stars. When it came into view properly, I whispered, "Wow," as this thing moved ever so slightly, but there was absolutely no noise, and the night was very still and quiet. I called out to my husband to come take a look, and he thought I was just kidding, so he came dancing out from under the carport like a clown, and at some point he spun around and started walking backwards, but his pace slowed right down and came to a stop in front of me, and he was looking up at the same object. Suddenly he made a run for the balcony above the carport, and I slowly followed, just watching this thing start to move off in an easterly direction. I was still at the bottom of the stairs when this object was directly above me, and my husband was up on the balcony trying to get a better look at it. In my position, I had no distractions from scenery or other light sources, so what I was seeing was extremely clear. I was taking in every detail of this thing, and mostly I was looking for some kind of identification that it was man-made. There was absolutely nothing to suggest that it was man-made. It was halfway across the roof of the neighbour's house when I raced up the stairs to the balcony, and we both watched this craft move over the house next door and disappear somewhere into the valley of paddocks beyond. It was an absolute amazing moment. I really can't describe what the feelings were at the time, but there was absolutely no fear on my part, though I was thinking that my husband was a bit confused about it. We only spoke about it once, and that was to my parents on a visit, and we never really mentioned it to each other again. So let me tell you and show you what I saw. This was no stealth bomber. There was no cockpit. It was triangular in shape and there was absolutely no panels or seams to indicate that this was man-made. The bottom of this thing was so smooth that it appeared to have been made from the one mould. I'm no good at measurements, but I've been trying to calculate it, and I would say it was at least 50 feet long, and it was hovering around 80 to 100 feet off the ground. It was so low and so big. In the 3 points of this craft there were small glowing lights, but they were not bright at all. It was the very centre of the craft that had me really curious. There was this type of dome or a light. Its colour was very dark red, and I was confused by it. Was it a dome or was it a light? But that centre dome was very different to the rest of the craft. How on earth could this thing move so silently and not cause some sort of breeze with its propelling forward? Why was it so low to the ground? And why was it above our house? If it were man-made, surely they were breaking some big rules there. But if it were man-made, what were they doing? I'm leaning more to this thing being not man-made. But this craft was simply not something that we all know, despite the shape being confused with a stealth bomber. It was a triangle, and it was flat on top. What stood out the most was the design. It was absolutely seamless. No joins, no panels, and completely smooth. Every time I try to recreate what I saw, it doesn't look right. There were kinds of recesses or furrows that I'm assuming had something to do with airflow beneath it. But they were so smooth. Like I said, it was like it had been moulded that way. But how could such a massive object be moulded into shape like that so accurately? Bear in mind, this was back in 2012. Either way, I didn't feel any threat. I was more excited about it, and I was wowed by its sheer size and the ability to float over the house like it did. It would be interesting to go back with an expert, explain what happened, and get real figures of its size. Problem is, no one takes notice, and for some reason my word is always in doubt with any subject like this, especially given that I've had so many strange occurrences like this in my life. This is the image that I created of what I was looking at. I've tried many times to create it. I seem to have it out of shape, or I'm not really sure. There's something about it that just doesn't sit right. It was the general shape. It was a triangle. The placement of the light and the furrows somehow don't look right when I put them on there. I swear it was like a balloon floating in the wind. But problem is, there was no wind that night. It was calm. It was very, very still. There was no noise at all. Back then, I didn't have a camera, and I was not in the habit of carrying my phone around with me at that time. So there was no opportunity to take photos. But since that event, I've always had my phone on hand. This is the third or fourth of 2 large craft I have witnessed in my lifetime, excluding the numerous spheres that I've seen, but that's for other videos.